Alright, so today I want to talk a little bit about Rawls's original position. The original position is a device for figuring out what the right principles of justice are, for people conceived of as free and equal, and in a society understood as a cooperative venture for mutual gain. Now, what does that all mean? What this means is that if you accept that people ought to be conceived of as free and equal, at least from the standpoint of government, and if you think that society isn't a struggle for power to the death, right, so basically you're not Nietzsche, then this could be a really useful device. I call it a device for producing principles of justice because it operates kind of like a machine. And so I've drawn you a kind of machine. Now, as you can see, it's a real machine because it's got gears and everything, because all machines have to have gears. And what this shows is basically that you have a machine and you input stuff into the machine. Things like values and principles or conditions, right? And you turn the crank of the machine, and what pops out are little nuggets down here, right? And those nuggets are principles of justice. So, in order for the outcome to be just, however, right, for the outcome to be what we want it to be, the machine has to be, one, calibrated correctly, right? So it has to be functioning properly, and the inputs have to be the right inputs. If you put the wrong inputs, no matter how good the machine is, it's not going to spit out little nuggets of truth, but instead other kinds of nuggets, I suppose. In other words, I think if you want to accept the original position the way Rawls has specified it, you have to accept at least three things. One, you have to accept that whatever flows from a fair bargain is itself just, right? So if the bargain is fair, the outcome is just. Two, you have to accept that what makes a bargain fair is that in the process of making the bargain, bargainers aren't able to take advantage of or aren't suffering because of differences in power, social status, or income. And finally, number three, you have to accept that features about persons like their intelligence or their talents, that is to say, things that Rawls considers to be arbitrary from a moral point of view, should not influence a bargainer's choice of principles for a free society. Conversely, if you want to criticize Rawls, you're probably better off criticizing one of these three things, rather than actually focusing on the output itself. Now, if Rawls is successful, this is a really elegant way of figuring out what justice is, because it doesn't reference any controversial conceptions of what makes a life a good life. After all, notice that in this whole process, from inputs all the way to machine, Rawls has made no claims about what makes people happy, right? So he hasn't made any kind of Aristotelian claims about eudaimonia, and he hasn't made any kinds of claims about what makes people live good lives either. Right? So he hasn't made any claims like Mill does about autonomy and freedom. Right? If he's been successful, he's found a way of talking about justice that avoids a lot of the major disagreements that people usually have when talking about justice.